the History Alive troupe that we ran into in Salem, Massachusetts, which is a theater group.
Right.
Doing a play called Cry Innocent, which was about one of the...
Wow, you've got a way better memory than I do. It was about one of the Salem witch trials.
We have something similar to it here in Deadwood. Deadwood Alive that does the trial of Jack McCall, who's the fellow that shot Wild Bill Hickok here in Deadwood.
But it's beyond that. And they take it out into the streets and do a capture and a shootout, and then they take it inside one of the historic buildings and do the trial.
History Alive does something similar to that too, because they do the apprehension, the production out in the street to basically hawk the show and get people to come into the courthouse.
It's one of the historic courthouses, another historic building.
So we followed them in and watched the production. And
then accosted them. Because it's what we do. My favorite was when you just asked them their names. It sounded like the Musketeers.
Courtney.
Garrett.
Jonathan.
Jenny.
Hello.
M-I-C.
Hello. That's good.
If people talk about love, you have to ask what specific love they're talking about. You need to narrow it in. No other word has been used, has incorporated so many entirely different meanings into it that it effectively means nothing when people say it.
Garrett
was intense.
Intense.
Very intense young man.
It's okay.
And then there was Courtney, who really did kind of remind me of a Musketeer, because she was very positive. She was very upbeat.
I think it's easier to love everyone. In the sense of, you know, like it takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. I think that it takes more emotional muscles to hate somebody than it does to love them. And
you've got to see some of the expressions.
As you watch the video, see how...
when Jonathan talks about the pit of despair.
The world is really broken and dark, and like that's an undeniable truth that we can't escape.
She's thinking, considering.
Maybe not. I think I had as much fun watching her reactions to everybody's responses.
Spontaneous.
No, I don't actually believe in happily ever after, because if you look for it in another person, that person is going to let you down, that person is going to die, that person is going to leave, or just, and that doesn't necessarily make any happiness you find with them irrelevant, it just means it's not permanent. And I think that we're all looking for something permanent.
I'm not a Buddhist, but I do believe to try and live and be present in every moment. So ever after is happening right now. It's not some ethereal thing down the path.
With that theater background, of course.
There were no one-liners, or very few of them. Most of them were like, wow.
The John Milton quote in Paradise Lost, which is, the mind is its own place and can itself make a heaven out of hell, a hell out of heaven.
Two things that popped into my head were Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton, and Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. But these were both women who went through quite a few men. So maybe it's my own Forrest Gump. Like, it's an American story, right?
It is.
If you would have asked me that question like 10 years ago, I would have given you a completely different answer. Then I would have been like, Twilight, there you go, best love story ever. But like, and then again, it's subjective. It's full.
Don't have to admit to having used it or having used on you. Just heard.
Wow. Well, I can give you the worst, and I'm not even sure if it qualifies as a pickup line. It was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. I was on tour doing the show, and this was back in the day before the internet and smartphones. So you would get a sheet to tell you, you know, what hotel you were going to be in, who your roommate was, where your room was, blah, 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 blah. So you could easily pick up the phone and call somebody in the other room and say, hey, we're going out for a drink, do you want to join us, blah, blah, blah. So it was late one night, I'm in my room, I'm painting my toenails or whatever. The phone rings and I pick it up and it's this guy who played the bass in the band. And he's like, hey, this is Bernard, how's your room? Your room's great, thanks, how's yours, Bernard? Great, how about if I come down to your room and we have sex? And I said, aw, no thanks, and I hung up.
I had been really infatuated with this girl for a while. She was also a theater person. She auditioned for something and showed me her audition video. And and I did the first thing you're supposed to not do when talking to someone you have a romantic interest in, which is to bring up past romantic interests.
Wow.
And I started talking about a previous girl I had been pretty into who was a professional level violinist. I talked about another girl I'd been into who was just like a really genius level, like she's an English major now, just like one of the smartest people I met. And then I told her, and I saw your video, and I asked myself, why do I always fall for the talented ones?
Ooh.
Ah, smooth.
Way to turn that around.
Yeah, not bad. Nice save.
It's really easy to just have a general kind of like affection for humanity and be like, I care about humanity. But it's so hard when people aren't lovable. And that's why I have to say, ultimately, I think it's a choice. I think we can be influenced by power or emotion or chemicals or whatever you think it is that causes affection and human connection. But ultimately, there's going to come a point anytime with anyone you love that you're going to have to go, I will still love you.
That's where things go a little crazy for a lot of people. I dated a psychiatrist for a few years, so obviously that makes me a fully fledged qualified therapist.
The Rainbow Connection, sung by Kermit the Frog.
Aww.
I know. I'm going to tell you something really, really, really quick.
Right?
We've been married 34 years. We've been together 37. The very first movie on our very first date you took me to see was The Muppet Movie. So when you said that, I went, oh, I wouldn't have thought of that song, but that's perfect.
Yeah, we were a bear in our natural element.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, that's a solid movie.
That's a good, I'm gonna write that down.
Thanks for watching, and if you want some more love in your life, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Where's that going to be? Should I point at it?
It's on YouTube.